We're live on YouTube as well right now.
Awesome.
Adding everybody up to speak. I'm gonna drop this in a few group chats too.
Yeah,
Good
we
idea.
should all do the same.
Good idea. Honestly, I kind of like this music.
This is the default like Twitter Space intro music.
It's nice.
I normally cut it off and go like before we were running the YouTube live stream, that would just like queue up stuff from Spotify, but I gotta figure out some issues on that with the live stream.
So is this better back then? Oh yeah. What else can I do?
That fits you so well, man, with the shirt. It's just the shirt.
Maybe I'll do something really explicit so that Stephen gets banned.
Bro, you're gonna demonetize us. Stop.
Yeah.
You're gonna start crying because YouTube shadow bans me in a sec.
It's too strong.
No, dude. I like the thought though.
Yeah, it doesn't work though. This is. We'll stick with this.
We got Molly tuned in.
Oh boy.
Got Molly in the house.
Yeah, I'm unmuting us on. We're live on Twitter as well. I know we all shot stuff out into group chat, so we'll let people trickle on as they see fit. But nonetheless, we're streaming to YouTube, so this will be shown on YouTube, so we can just kick off, boys. Excited to have you guys on today. Some exceptional artists out of Station 3 in New York City. Art by Dario, at Art by Dario on Twitter, as well as Monster Mike _art on Twitter. Got my silky smooth co-host OX Daniel on stage as well. What's going on today, boys?
Chilling, man. Hanging out.
Yeah.
Vibing.
Good day.
I noticed Dario has has some of his handiwork on in the background. Dario, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So this is a mural or part of a mural that I made for my third son, who was born 4 months ago. So homie, yeah. So we made a nice little mural. And, you know, when your wife says, hey, you're going to use your art in the house, you do it. All right. There's some advice. So I made a dope little mural here. And yeah, like my house is filled with my art. Like every one of their rooms is filled with cartoons I made of them and for them. So it's just stuff like that you'll see everywhere.
That's so cool.
Yeah, man.
That's sweet. Did you guys know, Mike and Daniel, that Dario had 3 kids?
I've heard it, but it always takes me by surprise.
Today I learned.
I learned.
Yeah, here's the thing. So on Instagram, if you see like the pictures I'm tagged on, you'll see my kids, right? But I try my best to like have my social media presence to be strictly about art, and then like really big events, maybe I'll put the boys, but I try my best to just make it about art. Yeah.
It was cool. You were talking, I think, before Mike and Daniel jumped on about how like your kids are starting to like draw as well and kind of hang out next to you. I thought that was awesome.
Yo, yes, it's the best thing in the world. So my oldest, we bought him like every art related thing you can think of. So he has a desk, he has like the light up lamp thing that you can use to trace images and all that stuff. And whenever I'm working, he'll pull up with his table from his room, like he'll drag it and like sit next to me and say, Dad, I want to be an artist like you, and then get to working. And you know, I can't front his, like the way he sees color, like his color choices is pretty damn good. Like he's really good for a 5-year-old. And I just look and I'm like, man, this guy is gonna give me competition. I like it. makes me strive to be better. But yeah, it's super dope to see your kids kind of emulate the things that you're doing. And being a dad is dope. Being an artist and a dad at the same time is super dope.
Oh yeah, busy plate on that end too. Mike,
Yeah.
you want to drop any bombs on us, man? How many kids do you have?
Oh man. Well, it depends on what family you're asking about.
Yes.
All over the place. There's little Jeffs everywhere. I don't know them. I don't keep tabs on them. They're just out there.
On Jeff, how did you come up with the name Jeff?
Oh, he needed a name. That's it. So it's just, I was like,
my name is Jeff right there. Bang.
Yeah. Well, so it was for the first thing I ever tried selling was a PFP for Jeff Town. And I was like, I have to call this something. Jeff Town. And that was it. And then now it's stuck. I could make up a deep thing, but let's be honest. It's just it needed a name.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I hear that. I want to ask you, Daniel, because I know you and Mike go back. Is Mike always like extremely sarcastic? Because I feel like every time I hang out with Mike, I get some sarcasm there.
Really, you sense sarcasm? I don't really get that.
It's a coping mechanism.
No. Monster Mike is a very kind and compassionate individual behind closed doors, and also outside of closed doors. I think the more you get to know him, the more you start to understand his humor and his just delivery of things. And oftentimes it's not really too sarcastic. So
I think I get the humor, and I'm not saying it. I actually love the humor, to be honest with you. And I do, yeah. I think Mike, you're an awesome individual. But like always, I feel like that humor is just I love being around it, man, because it always adds a good vibe. But sweet, I just pinned up a Jefftown tweet. Can you tell us a little bit about that, man? Like, when did Jefftown kick off? What led you to start in Jefftown, etc.?
Oh boy, I'm trying to find which tweet it was. Yeah, so the full story of Jeff. So I started drawing him 8 years ago. He's been my little pal for all that time. I have epilepsy. I'll give you the whole rundown for like Jeff, just because I haven't shared it much at Station 3. It feels like a good opportunity. People get to know of it. And then Dario, I want to hear all about Lindos, and also you should check out Hergé, this artist who I think you'd like. Anywho, so
yes, yeah. Send me any and all illustrators. Like,
I
please,
will.
all
He's
of them.
my favorite.
Send them.
He's the best. Yeah.
I love seeing it, dude. Like, I stay up late at night just studying people.
Me too.
Yeah.
What's the one you guys just were speaking about? Hergé?
Yeah, Hergé is this excellent illustrator. He did Tintin. If you're French, he's a Belgian illustrator. He worked in the
How do you spell it?
Tin. He's dead. He's from like the 20s.
Oh wait, do you know what his Twitter handle is though?
He's dead.
Oh wow, yeah. Well,
he's like a person who lived before the internet.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna find them on X.
No, it's not.
You know what's funny? Funny enough, I'm pretty sure like a fan page might be created, because I know that there's a fan page for Mucha and stuff.
Yeah, if you look up Tintin, Tin.
Yep.
Dude, his stuff is amazing.
Tintin. I feel like we could just go down a long. This looks illustrated.
That's not. That's a takeoff. Yeah. So that sort of stuff.
Gotcha.
He was one of the creators of it translates to clean line movement, and it's this amazing thing where you can communicate huge amounts of depth with very minimal lines, like huge amounts of information, which is like, I'm sure Dario, you're totally into that. It's like,
yes,
yeah, dude. So that's why your lines jumped out to me behind you, Dario, because I was like, they look just identical to the lines in your artwork, and I love your line work. Do you want to take a quick moment to just also let everybody know that's in the Twitter audience that we are streaming this to YouTube? So definitely grab the YouTube link from the first pinned tweet and come catch us live on video on the YouTube live stream. But we'll kick it back to you, Mike, to walk us through Jefftown a little bit and the story there.
Yeah. So epilepsy. Okay. So when I was in college, I've had epilepsy since I was 12. It's a whole thing. For those of you who don't know, seizures, it's the best. So in college, it's not the best. That was a joke.
Sarcastic humor.
Everybody laughed. And
That was sarcastic.
That's how you know Daniel's a homie, dude. Because Daniel was like, "No, his humor's not sarcastic. He's just a funny guy."
No, yeah. No, I am sarcastic. So in college, I had this. It was a low point in life. I had the worst seizure I've ever had, which left me dizzy for a week, which I didn't even know was a thing that could happen. But I was just like, I literally broke all of my cups because couldn't hold them, and still had to go to class. I was alone. It was really, really bad. And then to top it all off, my grandpa died. And one thing a lot of people don't know about epilepsy, when people with epilepsy are very emotional, and it's this weird thing where when you're having seizures, you're kind of experiencing all emotions at once, right? So you're experiencing like pure the beauty of life, and also just the tragedy of everything and existentialism all at once, and you just can't stop crying. It's a whole thing. So my grandpa passed away, and I got to be there in his final moments, but it was really trippy to like, I was totally dizzy, out of my head, crying all the time, and then my grandpa dies, and it's like, oh boy, this is a pretty bad moment. And then, I have to go back to school and do my bullshit work, and just not feeling it. So I was at this low point where I was just like, I need a friend. I just got to keep going. I need something. I was like, please just give me something, to the universe or God or whatever. And so I just had this, I just started drawing faces, and I just kept drawing them. And like that night, it was Jeff. He wasn't called Jeff. He was just my little friend. So then I just kept drawing him for up till now. And the whole time it was like for friends and family. I'd do like birthday cards, t-shirts, stuff like that. It was always just like my friend. And then I did NFTs, and I was like, maybe, like, people always told me, oh, I'd buy this on a t-shirt or whatever. But I was like, okay, let's see. So I dropped the first Jeff in Jefftown, and, they got like 5 likes. And I was like, hell yeah, that's a start. And then just kept going one foot in front of the other. And it's been a little over a year now, but things are like going really well. But yeah, it's just like this. He's my friend. I needed a friend. I got a friend, and now he's with me forever. So Jeff is my homie.
Dude, that is a crazy story, and didn't know that's where it came from. Curious on like the seizure portion. So you mentioned that you are experienced that like prior to a seizure, I think. Is it prior, or is it, during the onset of this seizure where you're kind of experiencing that overwhelming set of emotions of like both highs and lows?
So there's different types of seizures, okay? Here's a little science lesson. So when most people think of a seizure, they think of like from the movies where someone's like on the ground, foaming at the mouth. And that happens. I've had that. It's the worst. But there's also, and that's called grand mal, but there's also petit mal, which is more, it's like this, like you jerk. And what happens is those small ones chain together until it becomes this huge thing and you're unconscious. So depending on the severity, you're actually fully conscious sometimes while having a seizure. You can see everything, you're aware of what's going on, but you can't control your body. You can't talk. You can't communicate. You can't hold stuff. It's terrifying, right? It's existential terror. You have no control over anything. You watch it all unfold. You fall to the ground, you look down, all of a sudden you're bleeding, you're all bruised, you're breaking stuff, and you're just like, stop. It's intense. But there is a gift to it, I think. Like historically, so epileptics have always been, it's called the holy disease, right? In ancient Greece, the oracle at Delphi, everyone who could ever predict the future had epilepsy. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it's a fun fact. And it's this, so the oracles at Delphi, they had their temples built over natural gas fissures. They'd huff gas, induce a seizure, and then predict the future. So there's this weird thing, and it has to do with emotions and like life itself and connecting to the universe. So, look at the bright side of things. I do feel very connected to the universe. Sometimes it's not the best, but it is what it is. And Jeff.
Holy shit. Mike, also, I just invited you to be a speaker on the Twitter space, so definitely
Oh,
accept the
thanks.
invite there. Yeah. But Daniel, does that mean that Mike could predict the future, man?
He has special powers for sure. I don't know if predicting the future is the right power, but yeah, he's got superpowers for sure.
Okay, can I say one more bit on epilepsy, and then I want to hear about Dario. But there's
Yeah, we're
one
jumping to
thing
Windows.
about the future thing in this project we're working on that it's like perfect to talk about right now.
Mhm.
So, okay, there's this concept of time as a medium. Okay, so this is something I'm leaning very heavily into, and to my way of thinking, it fully plugs into on-chain art and like the permanence narrative, and we can talk about that more later. But for now, time as a medium, right? So there's this philosophy that everything that's alive has a medium. You guys know fish? Fish have the ocean, right? Fish are in water, but they don't know they're in water. They're just fish in their world. So again, the Greeks had this idea that what's the medium of people, right? So they created this word called the ether. And ironically enough, that's what Ethereum is named after. Something spooky there, right? So in the 70s, in Soviet Russia, there was a scientist named Kozyrev. This will take like 2 minutes, and then we can move on.
I love stuff like this. So
Oh,
go.
yeah, I'm totally down for
Okay.
that.
I'm in.
Okay. So Kozyrev, he was a nut. He was a mad genius. He was always making these big predictions, and everyone was like, "You're insane," and then they were proven true. For instance, he was like, "There's natural gas on the moon." Everyone was like, "You're insane. There's no way to know that." Fast forward a few years, they send a probe up. They're like, "Holy shit, there's natural gas on the moon," right? And he kept doing this with all these things in the solar system. And then towards the end of his life, he became obsessed with time. And this notion of the Greek ether. And he was like, I think time is our medium. And we're all moving within time. So the best way to visualize this is time is a river. And we're in a little boat. And we're all moving down the river. But because the medium is always there, everything that's ever been created exists because the back of the river is still there. And everything that will be created exists because the front of the river is still there. So according to his calculations and whatnot, with a little bit of energy, you can paddle quicker down the river. With more energy, you can drop anchor and stop in the river. And with the most energy, you can paddle up the river, right? And that's where people really don't believe in it, because that's time travel, what he's talking about. So in May of this year, there was a study done that for the first time ever observed time reflection definitively, which provides strong support for time being our medium. It's like the only explanation that time is our medium. So this study, without going into the details, they observed the medium around light reflecting rather than the light itself. So the best way to analogize this is if you were to look into a time mirror, you would see the back of your head. You would not see your front light reflected. You'd see yourself from behind because you're seeing the medium reflected. So tying this back into epilepsy, a seizure is a release of too much energy. That's all it is. Your body doesn't know how to process it, so it has a seizure to get rid of it. And sometimes they induce seizures to like reset things. It's weird, it's healing, it's not fully understood, it's a grab bag term. So when I learned about these things and time as medium, I remembered this one seizure I had where I had this freaky time thing that was totally out of sync. And more I'm starting to think maybe this is the explanation to it. So there was this very vivid memory I have where I was having a seizure. I was in my bed. My parents were there, and first the audio and my visuals became unsynced. So I heard them speak, and then I saw them speak, and then I heard them say those same words again, and then I saw it again, and I was stuck in this moment. And I was fully conscious, but they just kept saying the same things over and over and over, same intonation. And then it progressed to the next moment where it was the same thing. And I was just kind of stuck and I couldn't get out. But it was And it was weird. There was no reset loop. It was just one smooth moment, the same thing over and over and over. And so this time as a medium stuff, like his whole theory says with a little bit of energy, you can move in the river, and that's all a seizure is. So my way of thinking is, hey, maybe I did experience that at one point. It's kind of, I don't know, kind of cool.
That's like absolutely crazy, man. It's like almost, like hard to like think about and process, especially with if you were looking at yourself in like a time-based reflection, you're looking at the back of your head. I think that's really interesting too.
Yeah.
Damn, I feel like we could go on like a infinite time loop of talking about this.
Oh yeah, let's move on.
It's such an interesting topic. But nonetheless, you want to jump to Lindo's NFT by Dario. Dario, both the founder and the artist behind Lindo's. I'm sharing it currently on screen, but also will be pinning it up to the Twitter space. Mike, you gotta accept my speaker invite on Twitter, man.
Dude, I thought I did. I'm sorry.
I gotta lock you up here. No worries. Like Twitter always botches that a bit. Or X now.
The thing is that Mike is sipping wine in his country house in the Hamptons.
That's what it is.
Piano bar.
That's what this is. Definitely
That's
not
what that is.
Brita filtered water.
No, not at all.
You see in 3 of those accept invite buttons.
Okay, I'm a
Oh
speaker.
yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
But
There you
tell
go.
us a little bit about Lindo's, man.
Yeah. So Lindos is a art project, and it's a fun one. So it first started off as me trying to play around with a PFP collection, and it's not my first rodeo there. But long story short, I hadn't created a NFT collection or like a PFP collection that reflected my style. So if you go to my Instagram and you look at my style or the images that I have there, my work is very it's very signature. Like this is the Dario illustration based on the stuff that I do there. So with Lindos, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to focus, or rather, I wanted to see if we can make art PFP projects, right? Not just a PFP project that has freaking, staking and you're going to flip it and you're going to do all this kind of stuff. But rather a PFP collection more along the lines of Renga, more along the lines of maybe like Skulls of Lucci, things along that nature. And at that point I said, okay, well, it can't be a 10K, so it has to be much less. So it's 1,000, and they're all hand drawn, every single one of them. And the inspiration behind Lindos actually came from way before the NFT space, which is a few paintings that I did called Caritas Lindas, which is in Spanish is the smiling faces. And it goes with the idea of us having all these it's like smiley faces, these fronts that we put on, even though there's almost not always dark, but just deeper stories to the things that we do in the lives that we have, and the things that we portray. And that itself was inspired by guys like Takashi Murakami and their Smiling Flower. And I remember watching a documentary on him and just being like, oh man, this is really commercial art. And I had my thoughts on Murakami myself, on that commercial art scene. But then he had mentioned at one point, he was like, everyone loves the Smiling Flower and they'll see it on the Louis Vuitton bags and they'll see all this stuff, but no one asks, right, like what the small little tear in the flower means. And he starts going into it and talking about how this is his way of kind of dealing with the darkness of Japanese culture being so out there, but at the same time dealing with what happened with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, all this kind of really dark stuff. And I freaking fell in love because I love stuff like that. I love, when you take deep, profound things and then you cartoonify them, right? You whether it's cartoons I'm obsessed with this one, so I'm gonna show my dad card here. But there's a cartoon called Bluey. I don't know if you guys watch Bluey or you know about it, but there's this cartoon called Bluey, and it's amazing because they say it's for kids, and it's not. It's for parents, and it teaches kids certain stories or whatever, but really it's teaching parents how to be parents and how to deal with parental stuff. So it's a freaking hit. Yeah, there it is. But like I'll suggest that to anybody who's like a new parent. Watch Bluey and join the club. But I love things of that nature. So with the Lindos project, I'm doing 1,000 one-of-one PFPs, and each one of those, right, like are also going to be connected to the one-of-one artworks that I'm making for the project. So the project is in almost in the realm of an art project solely. Like it's just like an art project that I'm putting out dope work, right? There's going to be one-of-ones, it's going to be PFPs, but the PFPs really are like the community aspect to it, like if you want to be a collector, if you support the work, if you even like it, right, like at all, and you like what I do, then you'll get a PFP and that'll be like your entry, and there'll be art pieces that are only for collectors. But then also, like, if you're just somebody who's like, yo, this is dope and I want to rock this on my profile picture, then you do it that way. But yeah, man, that's Lindos.
I want to point out, first of all, I didn't know about Murakami having the tears in the eyes. That makes me like it a lot more. I thought it was just like, I didn't like it until
yeah, yeah. I'm with you. I thought it was just like, yo, this dude barely tried and got it, but it's not true, right? And that's the thing. Like the simplest designs, right? And this is the hard part. Like sometimes the simplest designs are the most well thought out, right?
Dude.
Like I think about Jack Butcher and all that kind of stuff, and it's that.
They're easy to understand, I think.
I said Jack Butcher and Mike got mad, but it's true. Like it takes time to condense the message as much as you can, right? And simplify, right? Like we were talking about like that movement, that idea of like just lines, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I would do art, like the traditional art circuits, and they would see my work, they would look at the bold lines, and guys, I kid you not, I had sent out work to get like checked out on a portfolio review, and all of them came back and said, your work is amazing, you're clearly talented, but we just suggest that you just use different lines, right? Like just give variations, like maybe switch up the brush or something. And I'm just there like, no, like
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm just like, no, we're not doing that, because that's one, that's not my voice, and two, right, like simplifying it can get the message across. Because if I can't explain this, or like if I can't explain it to like a 7-year-old, then it's not as profound as you think it is. It's actually the message is still too muddy, right? A child should be able to understand what you're like, the message that you're giving out, whether they think it's dumb or not. That's not even the point, but they should be able to come to grips with it. That's when you know that an idea is sticky, that a message has like true profound meaning, when like it can hit the youngest of like the human experience.
See, I totally agree with that. I feel like a lot of people write off cartoons because, they're mainly used for entertainment. They're mainly used for commercial purposes. But like you, me, Murakami, and Keith Haring, right? All of the cartoons that have any merit have a real depth to them. And there is like a sadness in them that is only expressed truly through this happy exterior. Right? Like if you look at any good art at all, it always has both. You need good and bad, because art is a reflection of life, and that's life, right? Like look at Rothko. Rothko is these, like, they make you want to cry, but there's that glimmer of hope, right? It's that good and that bad. You need the mixture. And it's the same with cartoons. And I think there just haven't been a lot of illustrators who have been able to make like an impression on the fine art market besides Keith Haring and Murakami and maybe Kaz, but Kaz's stuff I feel like is a little more superficial than Haring.
It is. And that's something that I myself, I'm kind of leaning to try to break that, like with a lot of my work and a lot of your work, because I is yet to come. I'm still trying to like kind of build the video.
You're rugging a little bit, Dario.
But I feel like a lot of the stuff is yet to come. Am I back?
Oh yeah, you're good now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
I also want to.
It's
go.
But No,
I
go
was going
ahead.
to say, I'm going to jump in real quick. I was going to say, I think to the point of things being simple, like it's really hard to make something simple, right? Like I think, for example, so I play music for pretty much all my life, right? I know pretty much everyone here knows Drake, right? Everyone knows Drake's producer,
Not me.
40. Yeah, okay. We're gonna have to put you on then, Steven. Um, but yeah, so his producer, 40, right? Noah Shabib. If you think about his music, it's pretty basic, right? Like you have a bass, you have a drum, and you have some kind of a melody. But in order to bring that all together in that kind of a way is so hard, right? To make something that simple but make it that seamless, it's not an easy thing to do. And so for the people, and I think that goes across all art, right? Like music, art, anything related to where you're trying to express something, if you can express it in a way that's simple, to your point, Dario, like if people can understand it, if a 7-year-old can understand it, you know you got something. Like that message is coming across. So
A
I
hundred
agree.
Yeah,
percent agree on that.
I think about.
Quickly want to jump in here,
Go ahead.
Dario. Do you want to encourage everybody on the Twitter space to share the space so we could get as much turnout for the wonderful artists up here, and to also jump on the YouTube live stream. So Joe, go get that YouTube link from the first pin tweet in this space, and you can check us out on video, guys. But Dario, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say that there's that SpongeBob episode where they're him and Squidward are drawing, and SpongeBob starts off by drawing the most like beautiful, complex portrait of a face, and then he erases all the features, and then again, ultimately, until he comes back and does a circle, right, which was the whole point.
Perfect
Like
circle.
right, a perfect circle, right? And I look at that, I'm just like, and that's how how I look at myself as an artist, where I know like I'm trained traditionally. Like I can oil paint, I can draw digitally, like, and this is not to sound crazy, but like I can draw like Sam Spratt if I wanted to, right? Like I can paint like that too. That's not the thing, right? It's just when you figure out who you are and what your voice and how you want to like communicate. For me, I wanted to be as simplified as possible. So for me, I lean towards, hey, like I want to get to that line, right? I want to get to that circle so you understand, which is why, right? Like even though we may have our debates about like Jack Butcher and other guys like that, like I do see that there's artistry. I'll give you can't deny this. There's artistry to what he does, because right, he does it on the design side where he's finding the signal right through all the noise, and he's saying, hey, how can we boil down this concept to the core value, and like be able to kind of like get to that point. Because if you can do that, then you can have people from all walks of life and all stories, right, get to a certain like meeting point, right, and they'll all be able to empathize and relate, because everybody can say, hey, like, maybe I don't know what it is to be, to grow up in a black household, or to grow up in the Latino household, or to grow up in the white household, but I do know what it is to like get in trouble with mom, like that, just like that moment of getting in trouble, not like what happens after, like how each culture might go about it, but just the idea of like mom, we broke the vase, that right there. And like the wide eyes that come in, and like the freaking the how the hairs in the back of your neck kind of go up, you're like, oh shit, like things are about to go down, right? Like if we can boil things down to that, and I think cartoons do that super well, and that's why like kids relate so well to these things no matter what culture they come from, right? So to me, like that's the way I go about things.
See, I agree with you, but I still think Jack Butcher is not a good example of this, because
Oh my
what he's
god,
boiling
okay.
it down to lacks essence and substance. A check, yes, it's culturally relevant to Twitter, but it has no heart, right? And so you, by comparing him to these other artists with heart who are doing the same thing, I feel like you're unfairly, I don't know, it just doesn't feel
Well,
the same.
the reason why is because normally I would say yes, he's a fantastic designer, right? Because designers and artists are, we
Different.
operate almost in the same, in the same gifting, right, and almost in the same realm, right? It's just that one is focused more on utility, right? Because there's that utility aspect. But in the NFT space, what's the utility? Like what is it really, other than the visuals, the aesthetic, and being able to have somebody connect to the work. So I think that in the NFT space blurs the lines in a way that I have to just sit back and look at Jack and say, hey, in this space, in the digital NFT art space, I absolutely consider you an artist, right? In the Web2 traditional world, yeah, we can have that conversation and say, yeah, you lean more towards a designer, and I think he himself would say that.
But
I
see,
agree with
But I
that.
think
feel like
I
you
think
identify
right
with
now,
that.
it's there's tension
another
there.
way. Another way of what you're saying is like the bar is so low in Web3 that we're just going to call anyone an artist with technical ability. That's what you're saying. And
No, it's not that the bar is low. It's not that the bar is low. Is
you
that
just
when
said he's
I'm
not an
gonna
artist
hijack the
in
conversation. I'm
Web2.
gonna
all
hijack.
right, hijack the conversation, because we'll go at it
Yeah,
on
I
this.
know, no. I completely understand where Mike's like coming from, but I
Yeah.
see your point of view as well, Dario. And do you think,
Yeah.
like at least from what I've watched on Jack, I feel like he prides himself a lot on like his marketing abilities and the design in terms of like making things understandable. So, but hear your perspective entirely, Mike. Nonetheless, want to jump back to a point that you guys brought up about how cartoons, can touch on some really, really thoughtful and like thought provoking, almost like grave topics. And noticed a little bit of that in both of your work too, in your illustration work. So, kind of wanted to pull up a couple of different pieces from each of you and just have you guys kind of walk us through like what we're going through your heads as you were working on these pieces and like the meanings you wanted to convey. Going to kick off with Dario first on it, but Dario, I remember seeing, I believe it was called, we just passed it actually, but let me pull it up.
Yeah, pull it up here, because I gotta make sure
Am I
I
still
get my
sharing on the live
stories
stream right
right.
now?
We don't see your screen, Steven.
Okay, gotcha. I'll pull it up in a moment. But it was one Dario where there was like a number of different characters. And I have the print here. I'm gonna add it to my screen. What's this called?
Oh yeah.
Oh, this one, dismembered.
Dismembered,
So
yes.
yeah, so dismembered, yeah.
Yeah, can you walk us through this piece of it, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So one, I always like when I can find fun names and fun titles to my pieces. So dismembered is like a dist member, right? The idea of like someone who's been like excommunicated or like hated on in the community. And then dismemberment, literally like we chop this person up. And I just kept seeing this like almost like this hostility that was happening on the Twitter timeline and in multiple other spaces that I'm in other communities that I'm in. And there's always some kind of beef, some kind of tension with someone. And I don't know, like one day I was just listening, I was listening to just really dumb Twitter spaces, bro. Just people just yelling at each other, and they're saying, "Oh, this guy, this," or blah blah blah, whatever. And that's like my like brain garbage. But sometimes you need that. But as I'm listening to that, I'm like, oh man, like when the mob comes together, right? Like sometimes we talk about community a lot, right? But communities become mobs very quickly, right? And that's something that we don't talk about, because it's an aspect of the human experience that's a little uglier. And we just we kind of hide behind the toxic positivity. And I was just tapping into that. So in this image, right, like everyone is smiling, right? Like it's no one is showing their true feelings or their true intentions or any of their motives. Even the victim themselves, like they're not showing like any kind of pain or like anything. Everyone has the same smile, like the same toxic positivity, even though this person is being like cooked by the community. Like they're being like dismembered publicly. And like I was just playing around with that idea, how that happens not just in the NFT space, but I think in many communities where like there's an idea, there's a passion for for something greater, right? It can be in the art space, it can be in religious spaces, it can be in political spaces, right? Certain cultural spaces as well, right? And then at one point, like somebody says something out of pocket, right, or out of turn, or like that someone didn't like, and then for whatever the reason, like again, don't think about the context, don't think about like specific details, just that moment of having been part of a community and then now the community kind of turning on you, but not being able to truly express anything, right? Like truly say anything because of like the ethos of the space. You don't want people to feel bad about whatever the belief system is. You don't want people to quit NFTs or quit art or quit basketball, whatever it is. So you kind of like put up a strong face, you put a smiling face, even though the same people who are, you're trying to defend are the ones that are like offending you. They're hurting you. They've excommunicated you or dismembered you, and they're doing it with a smile on their face and with toxic positivity, right? And all those things at the exact same time. So that's the story behind the piece.
That is crazy, man. That one's like so real. I think we've all seen that, especially like with the toxic positivity, and find it really strong that the subject in white here is still smiling through it, as you mentioned, putting on that face of like it's almost like defending yourself in a certain way can I feel like can oftentimes like incriminate yourself a little bit more, allow you to catch a little bit more flack than you would like. So the subject here, with their head on the ground and completely smiling through all of it, I think is really, really profound. But want to jump over to Mike. Mike, I have a piece of yours ready, and I believe it is a piece of Jeff. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but going to share this tab. This I find to be really strong, just because I feel like Jeff goes through at a number of different emotions within this piece. So can you run us through this a bit, man?
Oh yeah, dude. Well, first of all, I like your choice. I was expecting something else, but yeah, I love this piece. Also, Dario, like, I have that print. It's a great piece. It was definitely my favorite of the three because it explored, like, it has more layers. So great piece. So yeah, this. So, okay. How do I put it? So, as I mentioned before, this idea of time as medium, epilepsy, all this stuff, I've been getting really into the concept of permanence. And the thing that I'm working on at Station 3 is all about permanence. And it's all about exploring that, what it means for me as an artist, what it means for me as a human, So this piece here, Jeff with his head on a cube and his feet coming out of the cube, like the cube is his body, that's actually inspired by a piece me and Daniel saw at the Met. That's this ancient Egyptian sculpture. But it's like a cube with feet and a head, and it's just amazing. Like, it's so communicative, and it's ancient Egyptian. It's still here, and it's still relevant. It's very modern. So that, for me, as a symbol of permanence, that just really stuck in my head. So this, I've been exploring a lot of like cartoon cell pieces, and I'm actually working on this humongous one that'll share probably at the end of the week. But I find this format really interesting because there's not necessarily, like, we read it due to our societal biases, right? So we read left to right, top to bottom. But because there's no text, there's no numbering, you can really choose to read these however you want. So how this piece is designed, every row, every column, and even the diagonals form a narrative, and it's cohesive. And then at the same time, it all comes together to form a different narrative. So it's a way with only 9 squares of communicating several different stories that can sort of create this mass of feeling and communication. So here, yeah, it's very much about just like, well, it's a lot of things.
No worries, man. Can you walk us through one direction, like a tic-tac-toe block?
I'll give you my exact thought process while making this. I always make stuff like this at like 2 a.m. in Daniel's house, and it's a whole emotional thing, blasting Debussy or whatever. So let's
Daniel like tripping you out trying to go to sleep?
Daniel sleeps with the TV on. Sometimes Daniel sleeps through anything. He's
ready for it.
He's great. Yeah, he can.
It's a gift.
Yeah, he's like a rock, dude. I'm jealous. I'm a light sleeper. I need earplugs. So, okay, top left over. That one. He's just like this. He's this permanent being somewhere in space. And then a rock is also permanence, right? A rock, like rocks, they're there forever. Long after we're gone, there will be rocks. And then there's this guy coming to see him, and he's happy to see him. But is he coming or is he far away? It's unclear, right? So that's a brief little thing. top left down, here we have this permanent Jeff. There's a rocket coming at him, and he just watches it go by, right? So it's this other thing of like, if you are truly permanent, everything passes you by, and you're just still there. You're yourself, right? That's very interesting to me. One of my favorite ones is top middle down, because it's like, here's this permanent object. He's aware of this other permanent object, the rock, and he kind of sees himself in the mirror, and he is the rock. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm not going to explain all of them because I do want people, to participate, to actually try to read what I'm thinking, but that's a little bit about it. And then the last little key I'll give you, on the right side in the middle, this is sort of, so time is a river, right? Everything exists always, and we just change our position on the river. This is a depiction of everything existing always. So each of these is a different storyline, and that square there is all storylines at once. You're in the whole river at once, right? So yeah, this piece is very much that.
Dude, this is awesome. Like, I feel like now I have to take a few minutes after the live stream and just like sit down and process this. Did want to jump back to something that Daniel said before. And Dan, you were talking about 40 and Drake, and how like so fundamental 40's beats are, and completely agree with that. It just feels like, almost being that like low, kind of like a low pass filter on it, and like those lower beats, a bit more bass heavy, are just so easy to understand. And I think that definitely has a lot of influence over why Drake has become so popular and why a lot of those beats have become so iconic. And a thought I had before when we were talking about that was, I've heard this evolution described to me, and I'm going to like reiterate it. But I feel like oftentimes a lot of creatives start with their work being very, very simple, because that's like all they're capable of doing. And then as they develop their skills, their work becomes more complex, because now they have these like superpowers that they want to exercise. But then over time, they realize that like, all they want to do, or like the easiest way to communicate things, is just for it to be in like the simplest form. So despite having those exceptional skills, they end up just going back to that really simple, fundamental way that they were creating initially. And I just thought that was like a cool thing to tack onto that, what you were saying, Daniel.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just to continue building on that, like I feel like, to your point, right? I think as any artist goes through their journey, they develop these tools, right? They develop these skills, and they start building up this skill set. But I think that also, as they start to realize like, okay, maybe simpler is more easier communicated, I think that they do use those skills. Like everything that they've learned helps them make it simple, right? Like I don't think that an artist would come to that realization unless they've gone through that journey and, have gone through struggles or gone through certain things in order to come back to that place of being like, oh shit, maybe I can just do it this way. Like maybe people can understand it if I do it this way. So I think it's all cyclical, right? Like I don't think that, whether you're an artist, whether you're a musician, I don't think that comes very easily unless you go through that process, right? And so, I totally agree.
Hell yeah! I feel like we're gonna have to run this space back and just call it the time loop, because everything in this space is cyclical, infinite, and just like
Christopher Nolan's gonna be like Tenet too. It's just gonna be four guys just going on a loop talking about the same thing.
Really is confusing to Tenet 1.
Yeah.
All of those movies are like ridiculous. I think they came up when we were talking on the space last week with I think Alyssa brought it up. We had Alyssa Stevens, Molly McCutcheon, and then Mateo Purple on. I feel like Alyssa brought up Christopher Nolan, or maybe Molly, one of the two. But yeah, those movies are all just like mind fucks.
I wanted to add to what you guys were talking about, Stephen and Daniel. I think the process you're describing has been true for all of human history, but things are different now that we have an algorithm to appease. And you see a lot of artists who can do simple that are forced to do maximalism because it's eye-catching and it gets people to stop scrolling for a microsecond more. And honestly, it makes me a bit sad, because I feel like you're losing a lot of like the true nature of art because you're trying to appease this artificial thing. But it's human history, so maybe I don't know. It'll all come out.
Yeah, I think it'll all come out because
Yeah.
a lot of people would say that the past 10 years prior to the past couple of years, because I agree, I think everything is getting more maximalist. But prior to that, I feel like there was an oversimplification. Like everything was getting way too simple. Right, whether it's logos, whether it was like brands, even certain art movements was just like literally someone took a blank canvas, a bunch of blank canvases, and gave, I forgot to which museum it was, and said, "Here's my submission." Like, I get it, you're edgy, but things are getting way too simple, right?
Yes.
You have to have something there, right? Like put a human fingerprint on this, so you can have a voice.
Dude,
Dude,
that would be
you're
great.
such a great example of that. Of like, I've said that before too, and it's cool for you to like bring it up. How things are so powerful, and they can be like interpreted, or a rendition of them can be recreated by like a 7-year-old. And like, I completely agree with that. And I think that's why the Jack Butcher thing works, is because it's something that anybody can literally recreate. I think that's big on like logo design as well. Anything that like people are really trying to market, I think making it so that way literally a toddler can do it themselves makes things like easy to be iconic and catch fire. But we are coming up on time towards the end of the hour. So do want to give you guys a moment to just talk about what you're working on now, what we can keep an eye out for, or any like closing statements for the space too. Also want to give the audience on both the Twitter space and on YouTube a chance to ask questions. So if you guys do have questions, definitely drop them in the comments on the Twitter space, or drop them in the comments here on YouTube, and we'll make sure to cover those. But we'll kick it over to Dario first. Dario, we know we got Lindos. What can we keep an eye out for there, man? Or on anything else?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been working on Lindos, and that's what I'm doing. I believe, I'm aiming to launch October 2nd. I'm trying my best to get there before Halloween, because Halloween's important for the project.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I need it. So the PFP project right now is called Prime Subjects, and I will explain at a later date why it's Prime Subjects. But they're all hand drawn, and then on top of that, like, I'll take time and pause from doing those 1,000 to create a bunch of one-on-ones, and I just recently dropped 3 that haven't minted yet, but you can check my Twitter, and you can see the 3 pieces there. And if you're at Station 3, you'll see printed versions of them. So those 2 on my desk right now, and you guys can go check it out.
I saw the prints. I think you posted them in a pic on your Twitter. I'm trying to dig it up now. But yeah, I saw the prints that you had at Station 3, man. Those are awesome.
Thank you, man.
I'm
Absolutely
stoked to have one.
Yo,
Let's
listen,
go.
I told people, I'm like, yo, I might pop up one day and just randomly start giving a print. Yeah, and it just depends, right? If you're at Station 3, you come up. That's all I'm saying. I'm trying to give utility to Station 3. And then you have to buy the NFT for whatever amount that it is.
Hell yeah, I just pinned up a tweet on the Twitter space so people can continue to keep an eye out for it. But want to kick it over to Mike. Mike, I saw a tweet recently that you said you had a big September. It was like physical, digital, physical, physical, digital. What do we got going on in September, man?
Oh boy. So here's the full Monster Mike ecosystem, just real quick. Jeff Town is the PFPs. I sort of trickle one of those out whenever I feel like it. It was a whole regular thing. Now it's much more just for friends and very small, but we got a great community there. If I post a drawing on Twitter, it's part of this thing called Platform 99, where people can request they be minted. So if you see a drawing you like, you can ask me, and maybe I'll mint it, and then, that's the whole thing. But September, the main focus right now, why I'm in New York. I don't live in New York. I live in LA. But I'm here in New York because I have to be here to do a project called Arteris. So Arteris is the first fully on-chain AR experience ever. And it's important for a variety of reasons. One, the only way to achieve true digital permanence is to be 100% on an L1 on ETH or Bitcoin. And so we're doing ETH. And then the challenge there is file sizes, right? So AR has huge file sizes on chain. It's very expensive, so you have to do all this stuff. But what that tweet was about is the process for which the actual art will be made. So last week, we had a team come in and we 3D scanned the Wall Street Bull.
I literally just pinned that up to the Twitter space.
Oh, amazing. So what we're doing, and I'm so stoked about this, they 3D scanned the bull. What we're going to do next is we're going to 3D print a small model of the bull. Then several of them. Then I'm going to sculpt on that model additional heads, different limbs. I haven't ever posted my sculpture stuff, but that's actually my background. I'm much better at sculpting than drawing. So it's going to be fun. And then paint the scale model, then scan that back in, and then digitally overlay it over the real Wall Street Bull with coordinate point locking 100% on chain. It's a form of digital graffiti that does not exist. We're inventing it. And if and when we are successful, it opens the doors for some very exciting global democratization of art, where you can put art with our system, which is open source, anywhere you want, and no one can ever take it down, ever. Okay, it's so exciting. So that's what the Bull is about. It's called Arteris. We'll have a big party at Station 3. It's going to be, we were going to do editions, but it's looking now like we'll just do like 100 one-of-ones, and that's it. Because, you know,
that's the right way. Yep.
Yeah, dude, right? Doesn't that feel better?
That's way better.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, it's going to be, it's why I'm here. It's cool.
This sounds absolutely insane, man.
It is.
Wait, when's
a ton of people working on this.
When are we seeing that at Station 3? Is there like we have like an opening day?
Yeah, we're shooting for the end of September, but we might push it into October just because I'm going to need to hand sculpt and paint 100 little models, and I'm not going to do a half-ass job. These are going to be they're going to be my whole heart into each one, which takes some time. And then there's some, we got our whole tech side of things is equally robust and also working, but we're going to have slow little test cases that I'll share with people in the audience, in the office as they come out. But yeah, shooting for end of September, definitely not later than October because we have a big show in Dubai in November that we have to prep for.
Gotcha. Let's go. For both of you guys, Dario, I know October 2nd is Lindo's targeted date right now. Definitely down to have you back on then. And we could talk about that and hype up that launch. Same thing for this when it comes end of September, early October, Mike. Definitely would love to talk about that more. And want to just thank you guys for jumping on, man. This has been an absolute blast. You guys are just a fun group, bringing great energy all around, amazing artists, and appreciate you jumping on, Daniel, and helping me get some good stuff out of these guys. But we can start to wrap it up. So appreciate everybody who tuned into this space as well. Definitely want to thank you guys, encourage you guys to come out and continue to follow these artists on social media. Come to Station 3, New York City, in FiDi, in Manhattan. Crazy stuff happening there. It is literally just a wealth of absolute talent that is collaborating and hanging out at night. And it's so much fun to be around. So definitely take some time to check it out. You can DM any of us and we'll be happy to share some more info. Want to give just an overall thanks once again to everybody and catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks to you, Steven. You did a great job hosting this, moderating. I'm glad you whipped us into shape to get us here.
Yeah, this was awesome, Steven.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man.
Guys. Much more to come. I'm sure we'll all be on here just jumping on, having more combos and hanging out.
Hell
so
yeah.
appreciate all you guys jumping on, and we'll talk soon, boys.
Cool.
Talk soon. Bye-bye. Have
Take
a good
care.
day.